If you've seen anything around this YouTube channel besides the newer videos, you'll know that I've played chapters 1 through 3 of Poppy Playtime around the times they came out. I played the first 2 when I still had a mascot for this channel, even though it was like a really shitty mascot. And I played the 3rd chapter as I started formatting my videos more like video essays combined with gameplay as a way to transition to full-on video essays like all my newest videos. Now, I never publicly played the 4th chapter. I was excited to play it, and to my surprise, it was really buns. It was really not good, and I got stuck on the doughy boss fight after being worn out from every other unfun part of the chapter. And by the time the 4th chapter came out, I already transitioned to video essays, and it would not be in my best interest to go back to gameplay videos because obviously, completely different form of content from video essays, different format, I mean, there's barely even a format, but you get the point. So for this video, I'm just gonna give out all my thoughts on the newest chapter for Poppy Playtime for the sake of maintaining my modern video format, and because gameplay doesn't do good like at all. Like, look at these views. We gotta do better, guys. I'm kidding. Actually, don't watch these, especially the old one.
I wanna see how this game like ends. I wanna see how it goes on. I wanna see when it's finished. I wanna see all of it. It's all super cool.
The chapter is set to release around 14 to 15 hours when I'm currently typing this, so I want to give my thoughts on the chapter before it comes out, and I'll do like a before and after type thing. For my thoughts before the chapter starts, honestly, I'm a big fan of Poppy Playtime and the newest chapter, just based on the teasers and the trailers alone. I know many people aren't very excited of the new chapter because it's coming out way too soon, and chapter 4 was proof that Mob needs to take their time when releasing chapters. It was buggy as shit, some animations were really jank, it was probably play tested by apes. It wasn't very good. That's what I'm trying to say here. If you're smelling what I'm selling, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. But most of the concerns given by the community were answered by developers, and they said that chapter 5 has been in production since chapter 1, if I'm remembering correctly, and that they've taken all possible feedback from chapter 4 and put it into chapter 5, meaning it almost has to be a huge upgrade from chapter 4 and maybe even best chapter 3 in its quality and horror elements. I think Mob has teased the chapter way better than chapter 4. The teasers for chapter 4 introduced too many characters that overwhelmed everyone with who the possible main villain could be. The ARG ended really abruptly. The main villain was introduced really late, etc, etc. But for chapter 5, the teasers were pretty scary. Like, the VHS tape things are really well made and freaky lore wise. The theme of Playtime convincing already transformed bigger bodied children to think that they're the toys they've become bigger bodies of through constant hypnosis and brainwashing is a really interesting idea that I don't think I've ever seen done for like mascot horror, especially. I don't think I've actually seen that in many cases. Or in any cases. I love how this one video, Restricted Conditioning 1990, is formatted kind of like a documentary of Catnap's mental state. He starts off hostile and then refers to himself as Theodore when he's asked like what his name is. By the end of the documentary, even though he can barely compose a full sentence, he now knows his name is Catnap, and his eyes, like, you can see his eyes light up right before he says it, and I think that's really sick. It's such a twisted theme, and it makes so much sense for like part of the Bigger Bodies Initiative story, because they're kids being put into big bodies with their own like anatomies and shit. Like, look at this photo of Catnap's x-ray from the ARG. This to me is so sick. I think they're doing like, it's kind of like body horror, if I can't like think of it. Body horror and sci-fi kind of, and they're doing it really well for the story so far. And it keeps getting slightly more sci-fi, while things like the actual toys they still look like things that'd be in a toy factory being sold to kids in the 80s to 90s. If I'm gonna be so for real, I've started to develop a lot of hope for Poppy Playtime. The franchise has gone through a few controversies, and the first 2 chapters demonstrated that Mob was still in that state of being either a baby game or somewhat scary. I think chapter 2 was honestly pretty solid. There were some scary elements in chapter 1 too, like with the chase scene, but that was kind of it. It was all like that was the entire build up of that chapter. Chapter 3 though, that proved that Mob can make a good horror game. The mascots of this chapter were toys that looked like they could both be toys and horror characters, with the big wide smiling mouths and the big black eyes. And the fact that they dispensed sleeping gas, like nobody gave a fuck about their kids in the 90s, but the horror was pretty solid. They did what mascot horror nowadays should be doing and move away from jump scares. The jump scares, even though they were a really small part of this chapter, were also pretty solid. The characters would completely engulf your screen, with characters like Dog Day and Huggy warping their heads just to fit the camera all the way in their big gaping maws. Chapter 3 also focused more on ambience, with a lot of scenes having potential jump scares that just don't exist. Like the Bobby Bear hug room. He just kind of looks at you, and the entire time you expect a jump scare because he's just like staring at you the entire time, but that Bobby jump scare just never comes. And the jump scares that were scripted, like the Catnap one towards the end of the chapter where he slams the door, I think that was good. That was completely impromptu. We do like an entire puzzle or two forgetting about him. Like, we don't see him scurry across the room before entering. There's a lot about chapter 3 that I like, but unfortunately I already made my videos on that chapter, and this isn't a chapter 3 video. This is a chapter 5 video. We're gonna talk about chapter 4 later because the creators were improving off of that chapter in specific. So I'm gonna stop slobbering on chapter 3 and start slobbering on chapter 5. I want to start off with what I like about this chapter because I want to gush about this chapter more than I want to hate on it. I'm not going to go over this entire chapter like I wish I could for time purposes, so I suggest you either play it yourself or watch someone else play it before watching this video. First off, the Wrong Side Outermoles commercial. I love this commercial as the start of chapter 5. I love the designs of the Outermoles when they're not inverted. I love the constant flashing of the gross visuals. It shows how grim this chapter is going to be. The commercial can barely go 10 seconds without flashing to a disgusting, hard to watch close-up of the prototype creating one of those makeshift Outermoles. It's even creepier towards the end when you see one's eyes darting around and then the next shot it's breathing while aimlessly staring in 2 random directions. It's done really well and it looks super unnatural in a good way. Seeing the Outermoles breathing in a live action version. It reminds me of that one like Stupendium Little Nightmares 2 music video with all the gross like flashing visuals. What I love about these chapters is how they start off right where we left off, and we left off with Huggy Wuggy finally making his return as he breaks through the laboratory door. I thought the ending for chapter 4 was honestly the big reward for going through that entire thing. It felt like a treat, honestly, and Laith Pierre's tape describing how lethal being in the labs is as Huggy makes his appearance again was just great delivery. Speaking of Huggy, I'm a big fan of how they designed him for this chapter. He's obviously slower because of his injuries he shouldn't have even survived from in chapter 1, but he's more rabid and angry because of it. I love his sound design too. They expanded a lot on his old jump scare growling noise and gave him like an additional deep growl, like he's a wild animal that broke his way into the facility. After the chase scene, we lose our grab pack and discover this awfully charming little star flashlight thing. The black light is a cool feature I don't see in games very much. I don't think I see black lights in games like ever, but there's also these cute little sketches all over the place with the black light, and it really makes the chapter seem like they wanted to have more fun with it. While we're finding the star thing, we overhear a discussion between 2 makeshift Outermoles.
Who is that? Someone from above. There is no above. The judge said, can't trust the judge. Can't trust any of them, not like us.
Hearing them talk with their distorted, bit-crushed, weak voices does a really good job at reminding me that these are supposed to be humans trapped in these toys that have their own thoughts and feelings, and really fleshes them out more along with many other characters in the chapter. A portion of Giblet's dialogue also does the same, where it's like, oh yeah, this guy's like a living being with like a life and dreams and like things, but he's trapped in a toy. But I want to give Giblet his own stupid segment later in the video. I think it's also really freaky how they put these kids through Clockwork Orange government hypnosis to be convinced to want to become a toy. And we get to see the videos that tell kids that being made of skin and bone is bad and being made of felt and fur is better. All while a human talks about how fun it is to be a toy. Like, what do you know? The videos get progressively more hypnotic and slow, with her speaking slower and making you repeat words slower, and this weird trippy orange-pink poppy gel-like visualizer is playing in the background in almost every video. These videos are like actually, for the context of the story, really discomforting. I think my favorite of these videos was actually not in the game and was part of the ARG that took place during the weeks that came before the chapter's release. This is lullabyroom.mp4, a corrupted version of what I think is multiple of these hypnosis videos, all jammed into one 12-second clip and data moshed into oblivion. Like, I don't even think you can recognize. I can't recognize any of these, besides like the hugging one, I guess. This video is really cool to me in the horror aspect because it's so creepy, and it reminds me of something I'd be way too scared to watch as a dumb little baby. The video immediately starts with this loud tone that kind of sounds like sad or distressed in a way. It focuses mostly on Miss Grace, the main woman who appears in all these hypnosis videos. She keeps her eyes wide open in all of them, and we see so in this video where we can even see her bright eyes staring right at you through all the data moshing. And it gets even creepier when the video tries to play a clip of her laughing, and it just sounds really fast-paced and like uncanny, all while this unnatural bit-crushed ambience is playing, just adding a little cherry on top of my data moshed cake. At the time of the ARG, many people were really scared that it was going to be a shitty chapter because it came out so quickly, which I brought up at the start of the video. And I also said at the start of the video that a developer at at Mob Entertainment said that they are taking in all criticisms from Chapter 4 and learning from them in Chapter 5. I don't really know how their production for chapters normally works, but I do know that they were working on this chapter for a long time before Chapter 4. One thing I love about this new chapter is that it has a lot of charm. The developers clearly had fun with this chapter, and you can tell just by playing it. The cardboard cutouts, the room designs, the puzzles, the writing, all the little details, it's all so much more fun and tries to maintain a serious tone while having fun at the same time. It doesn't really do that, but we'll get to that later. One thing Chapter 4 did was it tried to do too much in too little time. There's so many characters introduced from that chapter. Yarnaby, the Doctor, Doey, all 8 nightmare critters, Pianosaurus. There's just too much. They killed one of the most well-designed characters in no less than 20 seconds into introducing him. The nightmare critters were a shitty copy of the smiling critters, and their art even reflects such. They all looked like they had like a white template that was colored and drawn over. And arguably, you can say the same for the original smiling critters because they are all supposed to share features like their big mouths and their white black eyes. But it's so much more apparent in the nightmare critters design. Just look how different the art is for the smiling critters compared to the nightmare critters. There's such an obvious lack of interest put in the nightmare critter designs and even their poses. The shark and the frog have the exact same poses. They have the arm out at like the same degree too. I don't want to linger on these designs for too long because that'd be an extra 10 minutes added to the video talking about why I don't like the nightmare critters, but you get the point, right? Like they introduce all these characters and at the end it's like everyone thought was like, who's supposed to be the main villain? Is it supposed to be Yarnaby or the Doctor? It's obviously not Pianosaurus because he got a YouTube short introduction. Why the fuck would they introduce the main villain in a YouTube short? And they introduced Doey like way too late, I feel like, to be the main villain, and he was barely even the main villain. Right before the chapter came out, they revealed Doey, and he also has like a really 5 out of 10 design. I think Doey's evil design is definitely a bit cooler. It's like all the like dough is molded together, so it's like dark teal. And I kind of get how Doey's design is supposed to be kind of like bland and generic. It's like Clay from Gumball, if that's his name, I think. The little red blob that can shapeshift or whatever. Like he doesn't really need a consistent form because he can turn into other things. Like I think that usually applies to many characters like of the sort. They revealed the Doctor sooner than they did Doey, and Doey was barely even a villain. He was the villain at the end of the story. Like when Mommy came out, we already knew she was the villain. Every trailer that reveals the main villain of the chapter teases their designs throughout the trailer, making the reveal less abrupt. And Doey's full design was teased through promotional art and seasonal art, making his appearance even less out of the blue and red and yellow and orange. They kind of just made him the villain out of nowhere. Like he crashes out and suddenly becomes the main villain. It's not like he demonstrated any intent on harming you anywhere else in the chapter. They honestly just foreshadow his monster design rather than him being the main villain. And there's no foreshadowing that he's gonna switch up on you besides the knowledge that 3 kids are in his system. My point is that he wasn't a good twist villain, if he was even supposed to be a twist villain in the first place. And his reveal was really mid compared to even Mommy Longlegs, who was also pretty low-key because her design isn't scary at all. Before Chapter 5 even came out, most people immediately thought that the prototype was the villain of the chapter. And then the store page came out in October or whatever, and the photo was the prototype's hand. And then when everything else came out, the main villain still looked like the prototype. We didn't even know anything about anyone until the chapter was about to come out. There's so much mystery behind the chapter, and they were introducing characters so passively that it wasn't even too much to worry about, like, at all. Like, the white Automole was revealed in a Fortnite loading screen and was seen in a single YouTube short in the corner. And then the one makeshift Automole named the Rusher with like the long mouth was seen in the Yule log and the teaser trailer that teased Lily Lovebraid's feet. Before the chapter came out, they revealed the Rusher Automole, Lily Lovebraid's, the Star Thing named Globy, I think, and Giblet. Those are the only new characters, and the Star Thing is barely even a character. It was a mechanic. The only non-new characters introduced were the Prototype and Huggy Wuggy, and everyone already knew both were going to appear in the chapter anyway. They didn't even introduce the rest of the Automoles until after the commercial came out when the chapter released because they were literally just collectibles in-game. The Nightmare Critters tried so hard to be an important part of Chapter 4, and I don't even think they had a formal introduction in the game. They were introduced by out-of-character developers in the Discord server, with many people immediately complaining about how the art looked unfinished. Like, did you even know they had a commercial? I know I didn't, because they were so forced out. Like, they pushed out commercial like last minute. It was so bad. They're very nonchalantly introduced every new character in this chapter, and every character had a good enough screen time and were used to like mostly the best of their abilities. Unlike Pianosaurus, killed by the Vor monster, and Yarnaby, who appears like all throughout the first half of the chapter as the Doctor's main way of attacking you or whatever, but he gets set on fire somehow in, I think, the shortest chase scene in the entire franchise. And the Doctor, who's supposed to be the main villain but dies in the most underwhelming way possible with the most underwhelming boss fight possible, and Doey. The animals, they appear like everywhere, and they have their own little mechanics to progress through the game, like at the start with the lights after you lose the grab pad. Editor's note, that is not a mechanic, and it's more just like a puzzle, just like a little short puzzle. I don't actually think they're like important at all after the short puzzle, just to obtain the little star thing. Just wanted to put that out there. The lore, whatever, aren't they like makeshift characters in general that the prototype puts people in? Like, that's a cool idea, and their designs are cool and whatever, but like they're definitely not, they are not all that. I'm done now. I can go. And the toys are the like little collectibles that are just scattered around just for fun. Giblet, main supporting character, appears all throughout the chapter. For how much I wish he was just never written into this chapter, I appreciate how infrequently he appears in game. He's the main reason you don't straight up die in chapter 5 because he like revitalizes you with his baseball bat thing. I don't even think it's a baseball bat. It's like a little thing with a... Isn't it like a tennis ball? I mean, like, I appreciate it. I appreciate that he doesn't, like, just let me die, but it doesn't make me hate him any less. Chum, he doesn't overstay his welcome. He appears for the segments he's needed in and leaves. I think he's used perfectly fine in this chapter. Or he is definitely one of the goofier characters, similar to Giblet, which makes his existence in this chapter a bit of, like, a weird blend of in and out of element, because he's dumb and he exists for the sole purpose of transitioning areas, but he's also, like, a toy turned bigger body. So he's, like, he fits in the story. Like, he makes sense story-wise, but he's really silly. So it's like kind of Lily Lovebraids. I think she has her own segment and mansion in the game with like 4 unique cardboard cutouts and a whole cutscene made just to introduce the prototype. After watching that 10-minute segment of Markiplier's stream of the chapter where he says Lily's section was like very random, I low-key agree. I think that they could have explored more of the massive, potentially liminal space type area that was Sweet Street rather than just shoving a Hello Neighbor-esque section into the chapter. I understand its use in the game. Ripping it out of the chapter would require a lot of changes, so I wouldn't consider it completely random because it explains some lore about Miss Grace and Lily Lovebraids, and it's used as a pretty solid way of introducing the prototype. Could they have done Lily's section differently? 100%. But let's compare Lily's section to, say, a Pianosaurus. Do you get what I mean? Do you get what I mean here? They used every character in this chapter way better than they used every character in chapter 4. Even if they weren't used to the best of their potentials, they were still written in a way better form than those of chapter 4. I must say, I'm gonna call comparing chapter 4 and 5 done. I'm done comparing chapter 4 and 5. Now that I'm done comparing chapter 4 and 5, I want to put some focus on the focus of this chapter, the prototype. I have a mix of critiques and praises for the prototype, and it's less of his behavior and how he's implemented into the chapter and more of his design. I like his behavior. He acts exactly like how he's advertised. This giant foreboding character that's always spectating the player and prefers to sneak around and would have others attack the player before doing anything himself. But he could very well kill the player himself. Very intelligent character, almost like an overprotective parent trying to give the toys stuck in the facility a home so they don't have to do the shit like whatever Poppy's trying to do. And he's almost like indestructible because of all the Poppy gel in his system. And every toy is like 2 feet tall while he's like 20 feet. So there's no hopes in trying to kill him. He also seems like unhinged. He has no problems putting people in toys and killing other toys just because. He kills an Automole for the love of the game when he makes his first appearance in the chapter. Completely unnecessary, but I mean, the Orphan wasn't really worth it, but I mean, he did it anyway, so. He even almost like stabs you in the head like he knows you're there, but like he has this reason for not killing you right then and there, and I don't think anyone knows why he doesn't kill you the first thing. I also really like how he speaks. It's so cool hearing him speak with multiple voices like that he's heard over the years and using them to compose full sentences.
Your time in the case
Help you see.
Reason. I see now.
This was my fault.
You act
like a child because
a child.
Is what they made you.
And some of his voices are just like random ass voices because they're like deep, growling monster voices that have no understandable origin.
What I had to.
very
A better place now.
I think his giant legs are sick, and how he uses them like additional arms in some areas, like in chapter 4 when you see him inspecting something with his legs in the shadow. And his arms fit his leg design too. They have like four colors: black, white, gray, and red. And so do his legs. It makes his design seem really dark and serious and like scary. And he has bones on his giant arms with his long claws, so it's like, oh, he's gonna look so cool. So tell me why the he has the smallest upper body. I like the jester element. It's cool. It's like an old-fashioned form of entertainment, and since he's the prototype. But why does he have like a Jack Skellington face? What happened to like the cool like bony element? He looks like King Candy at the start of the first Wreck-It Ralph when he mixes with that bug thing. One of my biggest concerns with the design before the reveal even came out was the proportion to the legs compared to the hands. His hands are so small compared to his big ass legs. I thought we'd have like a GLaDOS-sized threat as the overarching villain almost. I think if his top matched his bottom more, I would honestly have a lot less complaints about his design. If he looked the same but his jester top was bulkier, right? Like, I'm completely fine with the jester part I think that makes sense. Maybe the face should change. I don't like the face a lot because it's like kind of like I feel like it's kind of out of place. It's kind of like, it looked really rushed in my opinion, but whatever. I think the shrine from chapter 3 reflected what he was gonna look like in chapter 5. Like, it was this big, bulky, composed of toys, like big arm. He was gonna have like a weird design. He was gonna have like a really weird shape, but it was gonna look cool anyway. Like, he's not composed of a single toy. Oh wait, never mind. He is, like, in the worst way possible in my opinion. Mommy Longlegs acted like he was gonna like absorb her. So like, why do you put her arm on your pelvis? He put 3 arms on his pelvis area. It looks like really rushed. Like, why would you, like, oh, what are we gonna do with his arms? Oh, we put him on his wiener. Dude, amazing designers on the Mob Entertainment team. But also, he has like this purple fur coat on his back, like on his weird stinger thing on his back, implying that he like skinned Catnap and used it as a fur coat. Why didn't they do more shit like that? Why didn't they add more elements from characters that aren't directly made of them, or that isn't directly like their arm or their leg? Like, you could just like, you could do anything else with their arms and their legs. You could have done something with them, I'm just saying. This was the same guy who made a laser pointer out of a digital alarm clock. And you're telling me he couldn't think of a smarter way to use 3 spare arms from 3 different characters? Could have like put the 2 hands on his sides and he could have 4 arms. He could have 2 additional arms. And then he'd have 4 arms plus his 8 legs. He has 12 different limbs he can use as weapons and use as grabbing things. There's so many other things you could have done with his design. You could have done literally anything else with his design. I heard an interesting theory about his design by this guy on YouTube named PKY100 Please. I'll put the link in the description. He said that the prototype was actually like a Jack-in-the-Box character, similar to like Boxy Boo in Project Playtime. He's a bigger body Jack-in-the-Box character who ripped himself from the box and like built the giant legs himself somehow. That would be a way cooler explanation of his design rather than just like, oh, he's built with a really small upper body. Besides the weird design choice, I think everything else about him is really sick. He's like a big, intimidating character. Can't die. He's like super smart, super strong, right? He comes in out of nowhere through like the giant seams in the wall, like in the mansion, and I think that was a sick like way of demonstrating how stealthy he is as a character. And he kind of just comes in out of thin air also, like in every other chapter. So I mean, it was fitting as an introduction. It matches his character. 2 incredible interpretations of the prototype that I've seen, almost perfect interpretations in my opinion, of both his potential and actual design are from the animator markpan on YouTube. He has 2 videos, with the first being my favorite. His interpretation of what he could look like, using the final audio from chapter 3. The VHS tape from the end of chapter 3 made me lose my mind when I first heard it. The prototype sounded like this foreign, mysterious character with unexpected behavior, which surprises Harley Sawyer when he decides to start speaking out of nowhere.
Ready to talk now, are you?
In this tape, the prototype still comes off as this very intelligent and mysterious character, constantly learning from his surroundings and fully self-aware of what the employees are doing to him and the other orphans. It's even cooler when we hear him learn Harley Sawyer's voice at the end of the tape.
Fight or give in. Regardless, I learn something new about you every day. It excites me.
Thank you.
You thank me?
Absolutely.
I learn something new about you every day.
The prototype's version of Harley's voice sounds so much more sinister compared to Harley's already villainous sounding voice. And that's just the audio. The visuals markpan added to the tape make it sound so much cooler. The prototype is this big, bulky, immobile character similar to GLaDOS. His upper body is huge and his right arm is enormous. And his entire back and right arm both look like they're made of just straight muscle and other human parts. He almost looks like a Desolate Hope character with the wiry ribcage and the big mass of wires running along his body. And he doesn't look dumb with the prototype arm either. The arm is really skinny, but it's implemented into this design in such a way that it doesn't look stupid or like Glenn Quagmire. And we don't get to see the full face, but his head looks very humanoid and oddly plain, similar to how I'd imagine a prototype character. Not putting their full effort into the design and rather the function of the bigger body. An even cooler part of this design is the giant TV screen on his lower body, which changes faces to display which voice he's working off of. It makes the lack of facial movement even cooler than how it is in the actual chapter, where he has a face, but his mouth never moves. Speaking of the actual chapter, markpan also made a video using a tape from chapter 5. This tape, called Elliot and the Prototype, is of the prototype from before his voice alterations when he was still Oliver, but in the body of the prototype. He's very much self-aware of how everyone perceives him in relation to Poppy, and he's very vocal about his self-awareness, similar to his tape in chapter 3 after his voice alterations. There's probably some really gnarly explanation lore-wise for why his voice got replaced by solely the clips of others over time. This video also follows the idea of the prototype ripping himself from the Jack-in-the-Box and replacing it with the giant claws. Except we get a full unwithered version of his design, which looks really good. Giant Jack-in-the-Box bigger body with a permanent smile like in game, and his eyes are even seen dilating under stress. This design implies that his face is like rotting, which is why his teeth are so chipped and dirty, and his eyes became how they are because of a loss of identity and an extreme permanent state of stress. These fan interpretations of the prototype are amazing, and they're animated really well and the idea is captured perfectly. I'll put markpan and PKY 100 Please channel in the description if you fellas want to check them out. Alright, back to my praises. I love all the little details in this new chapter. Every chapter besides like chapter 4, I think, had the golden statues. But now they have these statues, papers, and collectible toys. And they have like a list of collectibles or the max collectibles in game, which adds a bit of like replayability to collect them all. It's also for the new achievement system that's going to come out in the next update, I think. I like the UI in the collectibles section. A cool detail that I think is new to this chapter is that you get extra details about the items you collect by inspecting them and shaking them around a little. It's just fun seeing the cool designs of the gold statues or the wrong side animals in their full glory, and even getting charming little notes about them. I think as a puzzle game, I'm a fan of these puzzles. I'm a dumb baby, so I was kind of confused by the bright purple paint telling me to pull the circle lever, but I think that's fine. I mean, I think the black light mechanic was great. It's like a smaller version of the tablet thing from Bendy and the Ink Machine, and I like how it's used in things like the Lily Lovebraid segment where you can't see everything at once in the dark ass room. And it's nice how they literally ripped the grab pack from the player to demonstrate how we do not need any of these things we had before, and now we have a prototype grab pack. I don't like how we get the grab pack from whose idea was this? That was like, I think, actually the most uncomfortable part of the game for me. And I didn't even need to stay in there for that long. It just kind of like put me in a trance, I'm not gonna lie. But the new mechanics are like cooler replacements for previously existing hands. The conductor hand basically replaces the green hand and the flare hand, and the electric band things replace the purple hand. And I think the electric band things are way cooler than the purple hand in my opinion. It's hard to make puzzles in games like Poppy Playtime fit into their environments, but I appreciate how they try their best to make everything make sense, like story-wise. Because like at a certain point, it'll just become Garden of Banban with like the really stupid, impractical puzzles that make no sense for a staff member to be using just to unlock a door. On the note of the environments, I also think that the laboratories are really well done. Like it's clean, like a laboratory area. Like it's supposed to be clean, and there's shit everywhere because it's like after the hour of joy, so everything's gonna be a mess. But it's clean. It kind of also displays the same amount of dullness that every area of like the prison would like have. Like the prison was really like dull and colorless and lifeless, and everything kind of had to look the same. I feel like they did the dullness of the areas here like a bit better just because they're empty. Like they're used, like you can imagine people being in these areas. Because I'm going off script so much and I'm being a naughty little boy with this video, what I meant to say here is that there was this sense of like desolateness that manages to stay in the somewhat colorful lab area after the previously colorless, dull prison section from chapter 4. The labs are messy, but they're not filthy or covered in gore like the prison area was. Like there are sections in the prison in chapter 4 just filled with bodies. I think at the start there's the giant piles of toys at the front of the prison, and then even outside of the dead toys there's even actual like human employee carcasses like put on sticks and like composed into different like little spots. There's like just a random person like crucified on a concrete wall in the middle of like at some random area in chapter 4. I think the labs also have their violent areas if you can count that bottom part where you find Globy the labs with all the like little lights and like where you meet Giblet. The areas that don't have violence in this chapter, replace any violence with like this empty feeling and like liminality. I think that's a word. Like there could have been people here in these rooms and these hallways, and even like the non-lab rooms like Sweet Street are like backrooms levels with how expansive they can be. Sweet Street is made of what looks like clay or Play-Doh with this weird shine applied to everything and this weird like texture on everything. Like nothing looks like it's built from, nothing looks natural at all. It looks completely fake and smooth, and it just looks really like artificial. But with how big Sweet Street was and how empty it was, it almost recreates that same eerie, artificial feeling that Playcare perfected. With how big that big dome was, it's like the Truman Show with like all the fake sunlights and the big dome. Sweet Street and Playcare both share the same fake, man-made feeling. I also like how the poppy gel is everywhere. It's like it's a mess in the building, right? The prototype does not give a shit about how messy the gel is. There's like layers of just straight poppy gel everywhere. They don't have any janitors here, so I mean, like, what? I mean, like, they're not gonna clean it up. What are they gonna do? Like, eat it, bro? They're not gonna do anything. It'd also be really hard to explore the cave system in this chapter without adding like another 3 hours of gameplay. Like, look at this window. We're going from like a really pretty big building to like Aperture Science. Maybe even bigger than Aperture Science. We're gonna hit the core of the earth. This window looks like a screenshot from a story about my uncle, and I almost don't want to believe this is part of Poppy Playtime. Like, the area we're in is like a small fragment, like a small section of Playtime code, dude. They're gonna start powering the buildings with like lava in like chapter 5.5. But that's my problems with the chapter, like kind of make their appearances. This chapter is really unserious, like a lot of the time. It has a really strong introduction with the chase scene, but directly after, when you're in that little area with all the windows, and then you turn to your right and you're presented with a cave system bigger than Vatican City. This chapter has its charm. I'm not going to deny that. The developers probably had a lot of fun making the game, but the scariness almost does a complete 180 and turns from like pretty scary to almost like a parody. It's like, it's not that scary. It's honestly, there's a lot of really comedic parts in this game compared to the scary parts. The joke parts are like starting to outweigh the scary parts a lot. Lore-wise, it's the other way around. Gameplay-wise, it is not. It is the other way around. For example, for how unserious this chapter is, just Giblet in general, just the existence of him, it is so hard taking that little thing seriously. He makes his debut scaring off a Rusher animal like a dog doing something it shouldn't be, with like his little like tennis ball bat, baseball bat thing, and he calls you the Playtime Butcher. And you gave the cat a name. Who's telling him this? Who's gossiping to this guy about your murders of these rabid children? I don't think Poppy's that excited about what you're doing to her kin. And while he's talking to you, he keeps doing this thing where he points at you like a Smiling Friends character. And I know he does it like twice, but it's so funny. Please stop pointing at me. He looks like a Skylanders character, and when he walks off, you have to like awkwardly follow him into the smallest vent. And he starts talking about Poppy and says like, that girl's been behind glass way too long. Who are you? No one has said anything about this guy until now. And then when you meet Chum, everything he says is like, he acts like he's going to be eaten by Chum at any given time.
Poppy's angel. The Playtime Butcher. I was just filling in Chum on our plan.
Even though they fist bump like dead ass right in front of you when they meet each other. Right after meeting Chum, the two like stare at you and watch you do a puzzle. And the longer you take, the more Giblet starts like condescending you.
Don't worry, Chum. The Butcher's got this. Oh, I feel like you almost had it. Oh, I know. Have you tried solving the puzzle? I got it. Maybe unplug it and plug it back in again. Hey, Chum, tell them they're doing great.
Picking my nose. Picking my nose and eat my boogers. After that segment and some like additional puzzles, we move on to this memory segment. This part seems almost directly inspired from Garden of Banban, and obviously they do it better because Garden of Banban is like really jank and it plays like shit, but it's so funny. Or it's not that funny, but it's so dumb. You see Huggy Wuggy's perspective right after becoming Huggy Wuggy because he was a kid in the facility beforehand, and you have to do like really basic mini games like putting the square in the hole when the screen tells you to put the square in instead of the triangle. And if you mess up, you get like a sister location electric shock. The next memory is like musical chairs but with lights, and you have to stand on a Huggy Wuggy shaped light when the music stops. All the while, these dumb little mini critters are dancing, and this one is like in fetal position crying on the floor, and you have to put him in like the bad toy box and like can your pet his ass. Like that in a horror scenario, that's like really disturbing, and like, but it's so absurd and cartoonishly evil that it kind of makes you realize how like ridiculous the scene is. It feels like I'm watching The Boys for the first time, and you can tell the writers are like, how do we make this more crazy? How do we make this any more stupid and crazy? And it gets really stupid when you see them fall out of these pipes. Like, how many spare toys do you have just waiting in fetal position? And these two, when I played these two smiling critters, like they stacked on top of each other. Like the last memory isn't a game, but it's more of Huggy being strapped to one of those Pianosaurus chairs and being forced to watch a hypnosis video. Except Huggy manages to slip out of his straps, breaks the TV, and unplugs his containment straps. And while you're doing this, a staff member is just staring in your general direction, telling you to stop, like, while he's looking at you through the glass. He's, like, barely moving. He stays in one spot as he's just watching you break all the glass right in front of him. Like, when you break out fully, he's still standing there. This whole segment was just, like, really silly to me. I understand why it'd be kind of scary, like, mainly in the second memory when you have to, like, murk a dozen other toys, but otherwise, it was just not easy to take seriously. And also, the chapter has the dumbest ending written in a game ever.
Well now, this is a rather interesting turn of events.
Like, don't tell me this isn't out like how a Marvel movie would end. Well, this is an interesting turn of events. Hey, why the fuck did we turn this guy back on? For more serious aspects of the game, I mean, I do have some serious Samuel critiques. First off, the health system. I do not have that much of a problem with the health system. I think they did it in this chapter, like pretty well. With getting beat up by the Automals rather than just straight up dying. I mean, that makes sense. I do think by this logic, dying to the mini craters makes no sense. In the Hour of Joy, there's like 30 of them suffocating one person. How do they kill people without suffocating them? Their arms are so small, and they're also really small. Like I think their hands are the size of like my microphone. How could fire scare them all away, but you can't overpower one with your 2 human hands and your 2 cybernetic hands? Anyway, this health system is like pretty good in this chapter. These are really small complaints, and this does apply to I think chapters 3 through 5. Do not just stop the player and play the death scene and fade to black when you fall in a hole. In chapter 2, when you die, it cuts straight to the game over get up screen. Why doesn't it do that here? It just looks so dumb. Like imagine like every time a person died in real life, they would be as stiff as a board, standing up in place, and then they'd fall over. Like imagine like falling off a building, right? And then they land on their feet and then fall over. That's probably my only big complaint for the health system. Don't turn the player's health all the way just to 0. Make them go through the game over screen. My next big complaint applies to most games like Poppy Playtime, particularly modern day horror games like every Steel Wool era FNAF game. The jump scares. The jump scares are a big problem. A while ago, I wanted to make a jump scare analysis video because jump scares nowadays do not do games any good. An example of jump scares that do good are like the somewhat unscripted jump scares of Lethal Company. When you encounter and die to things like coil heads, they make this loud spring noise, and you can even hear their footsteps beforehand. And when you turn around, that noise plays, and it probably scares like 90% of Lethal Company's player base every time. But that's Lethal Company compared to games like Security Breach or Poppy Playtime, where someone will walk up to you and you will know you're gonna get jump scared right before you get jump scared. Like it doesn't make that scary at all. I think Poppy Playtime can have good jump scares. Like the scripted ones that don't directly kill you are good ones. Like the one in chapter 3 when Catnap appears out of nowhere, just like slams the door on you when you're in that one room. Like that was a good jump scare because you don't expect it. You have no reason to have it happen to you. That's perfect. That's why other jump scares are good. Even in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, the jump scares were really good until you got like warmed up to them, right? That's kind of the scary part of jump scares. You don't know when it's gonna happen. I think the jump scares that come from being killed by characters in the new chapter are so weak sauce. It's cool that they had different jump scare sounds for different people, even though I think that they have that for like every game, but their sounds are not very scary, especially Lily Lovebraid's jump scare. Why is she just like screaming at you? I understand more for Huggy because he can't speak English and he's got like rabies. And his jump scare is like just as okay as it was in the first chapter, but I wish they removed the turning the player around and then eating him. Too polite. He should just be like in front of you like he was in the first chapter. Anyway, Lily speaks English fluently and her dilated red eyes look less feral than Huggy. Like her eyes changing don't make them scarier at all. And her design looks dumb. So it's like, it's like, I mean, it's a toy, but it's not scary at all. Like I think her hair being like weird, like the weird like dragon petal things from Coraline are cool looking. But I mean, that's not really scary. That's just cool looking. Like they're supposed to be like all up in your face and like loud, and Lily just doesn't do that like anyone else does. I think the laughing makes sense for like the prototype, but what does he do when he goes into the camera? He can't move his mouth. Is he like going in for a kiss? I don't like. What's the point? I think they were trying to replace jump scares with fully fledged death animations when it came to like Lily Lovebraids, but they p***ed out at going all the way because mascot horror requires jump scares nowadays. I guess part of the mascot horror rulebook. I don't know how far in production Mob was when they made these, but I think they would have been way scarier having full ass death animations animations, or at least like shorter, louder jump scares, at least. Jump scares are fitting in like specific contexts, like with Huggy, who's just gonna eat your ass anyway. It's like, what else is he supposed to do? He just wants to kill you. Miss Delight's jump scare in chapter 3 was also like a really good balance of like jump scare and death animation. She gets up in your face and yells at you with this like really unnatural ear-piercing shriek and then bludgeons you with her pencil mace thing. Like, that's cool. And Dig Dug and Nightmare Huggy's jump scares were both like really good jump scares, since they get up all in your face and literally warp their mouths around to wrap around the camera. Like, that's like freaky. That's like freaky as shit. It's like you're actually being like eaten by them. That's like, I think that's like really good. Like, what if like Lily yelled in her face and like slammed you on the ground with her hair or something? Like, that'd be cooler. That'd be cooler. And that's like kind of low key, I feel like. And what if the prototype like stabbed you with his legs and like his hands were the killing blow aimed directly at the camera or something?
Editor's note, I just saw an unfinished death animation for the prototype. Take a wild guess what he does.
It'd be way cooler if they just like, instead of putting their faces towards the camera, they actually like killed you. Like, you can't let the player's imagination do the rest of the work. We need to see what happens after I get a kiss from the prototype. We know what happens when Huggy eats us, so there's no need to do any more of like to his jump scare. I mean, Lily and the prototype have the most to work on. I mean, and that's kind of where my critiques end with like that area especially. What is my final opinion on this chapter after all this yammering? I think, honestly, it was not that bad, especially quality-wise. There were definitely some moments that were scary, and there were more moments that were just way too hard to take seriously. It was way too wacky for a horror game, and I think adding friendly characters to mascot horror games is, in my opinion, a terrible idea. Lore-wise, it makes sense. Living toys, not all of them are evil, because some of them are like not morally bankrupt, but it's just dumb. And honestly, it would make way more sense if the prototype managed to kill off every other friendly character we knew besides like Poppy. Poppy being friendly was fine. Adding conflicted trust, like how much can we trust Poppy? Like, we barely even know that she's friendly or not. She's like still technically a villain, and she's like a 1 foot tall Edward Tulane like China doll. She can't really do anything. You're basically completely helpless with her as a supporting character anyway. The grab pack should have stayed as the only assistance we had, because employees for some reason had to use them at all times, so environment and puzzle wise it made sense. I think the lore is awesome and disturbing, in my opinion. Very unique take on the turning dead kids into mascots trope. For the entire game's lore, I think the Hour of Joy turned the story like almost completely on its head and made it way darker than any other mascot horror game. I think the lore just got darker after chapter 3, and I'm honestly excited for how the story's gonna end despite the borderline Marvel movie writing from chapter 5. To me, Poppy Playtime is a refresher for mascot horror. Mascot horror has been very clearly been on a decline for the past few years, and I think Mob wanted Poppy to be one of the greatest modern mascot horror games. Gameplay wise, I wouldn't say it's doing the best at doing that beyond like chapter 3, because it's not that scary, but lore wise it's definitely nothing to scoff at. I hope chapter 5.5 or 6 or whatever is the ultimate scary awesome chapter. We all live happily ever after and say thank you Mob Entertainment for making Poppy Playtime. You can go back to making Minecraft Circus Baby sexy again.